Greetings to all of you. I want to talk about the powerful eclipses that are coming up. November 19th, we have a partial lunar eclipse, leading then into December 4th, when we have a total solar eclipse. Remember that eclipses are wake-up calls. They are messages from the cosmos, helping us to wake up and to look at what we're needing to face as we're on our journeys of growth and evolution on this planet. It is extraordinary to realize that in this intense time that we're in globally, the energies of the sky and the energies of the earth are the book of wisdom around us, guiding us to show us what is the deeper meaning of this time. How are we meant to navigate this time of turmoil, time of transition, and what is the deeper meaning of it all? If we track what is happening with these eclipses, they really begin with the new moon that we had on November 4th. That new moon in the sky was right at the top of Libra, the scales. Then, as we come to the full moon, November 19th, the sun is now at the bottom of the scales of Libra in the sky, and Mercury and Mars are also in those stars. And the full moon that is really calling out to us with that partial lunar eclipse is in the stars of Taurus, close to the Pleiades, and right next to the North Node and Sedna. Then, as we move to December 4th and the total solar eclipse, which a solar eclipse always happens at the time of the new moon, the sun and new moon are now right next to Antares, the royal star of the west, the heart of the scorpion. That is close to where we see the galactic center and beneath the stars of Ophiuchus, the great healer. What does all of this mean? If you look at the sequence of the movement of the sun through that time, it is journeying through the stars of Libra, calling our attention to where are we in balance in our lives, where are we out of balance. Libra is that constellation that is reminding us to be in harmony, to be in right relationship with the energies of the cosmos, with the energies of the earth, with our true selves, and in how we are in relationship with each other and all that is. So as you journey through this sequence with this lunar cycle into the next lunar cycle, take time to tune in and meditate. Where are you in balance and in harmony? And where are you out of balance in your life? How can you tune in to coming back into right relationship with your true self, with your soul self, with the energies of the earth and the cosmos? And it's beautiful that at the time of the partial lunar eclipse, the moon is by the Pleiades. The Pleiades are guiding us in this time of transformation and transition, saying, remember, you are supported by the energies of the cosmos. This is about a larger transformation that you're in. And it's extraordinary that that full moon and partial lunar eclipse are right by Sedna in the sky. And she is next to the North Lunar Node now through March, within just a few degrees. What does that mean? Remember that the North Node is not only showing us the eclipse points, but are reminding us of what our consciousness is supposed to focus on in that period of time. And interestingly enough, since May of 2020, the North Node, where we're meant to focus our attention, has been in Gemini, and it will be in Gemini until January of 2022. So the North Node, the energies of the sky are saying, from that period, shortly after the COVID lockdown, up through the end of this year, we are meant to be paying attention, Gemini, to our thoughts, to our beliefs, to how we're communicating, to how we're thinking about things. Look at the turmoil that we've been in 2020 through 2021, with the pandemic, with all the changes happening, with the increasing storms, increasing turbulence globally, politically, economically, the breakdown of our systems and structures from the past, the chaos in healthcare. What is the meaning of all of this? It's a stormy time. And part of what this lunar node in Gemini is saying, pay attention to your thoughts, how you're interpreting all of this, how you're looking at all of this. And are you trying to figure it all out? Are you trying to feel some sense of control with your analytical mind? Or are you opening to the deeper meaning of this time that is the transition from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, into new paradigms, into radically new ways of thinking and being? That is what we're being called into. And as we're in that journey and transition, we're meant to look at our thoughts. And are we, in our anxiety, in our uncertainty, giving our power away and letting our thoughts or beliefs be shaped by others who say to us, this is what you need to do to be safe. This is how to navigate this stormy time. Or are we listening to our soul selves and our own deep knowing and attending to the wisdom of the cosmos and of the earth who are guiding us through this time? It's extraordinary that Sedna, that planet that was discovered in 2003 and is so far out in our solar system, her orbit is close to 11,500 years. Sedna is that planet that has an elliptical orbit and journeys so far out. She touches the outer reaches of our solar system and communes with the other star systems. And then she comes back in every 11,500 years, close to our inner solar system. And when she returns, she is the messenger saying, this is a time of profound transition and transformation. She is the marker of that cycle, halfway through the precessional cycle and at the end of the precessional cycle and beginning of a new one, when the Earth goes through a massive time of transition and transformation, and we are called into a radical shift in consciousness. We are there now. And what does that mean? It means the Earth is in her own transformation. And we see that all around us with the increasing earth changes and storms and transitions that are happening on our planet. And we feel that turbulence of the shifts in the paradigms around us. And we see the old systems and forms and structures falling apart. And our tendency as humans is, how do we fix this? How do we get things back in control? How do we use our technology to feel safe and back on top of things again, so that we can get past the storminess and get back to how things were. But the energies of the sky and of Mother Earth are saying that is not possible. This is a time of radical transformation. The story of Sedna is the story of the time that we're in now and this time of metamorphosis that we're called into. Listen to the tale again that is the archetypal myth that speaks to the meaning of Sedna the planet and the message that she's giving to us in this time. Listen now to the story of Sedna and listen to what she has to tell us about our lives in this time. Sedna was a young woman living in an Inuit village far in the northern part of Canada. She grew up feeling very different from those around her. She wasn't quite sure why, but she knew she didn't fit in with the conventional ways of being or the ways of her village. So despite the pressures to live up to the expectations of what a young woman was supposed to do in her village, she followed her own heart and listened to what was right for her own path. So despite the pressures to marry, to settle down, to do the conventional things, she resisted and waited and listened to her own inner knowing. Then one day, a stranger came into the village, and something deep within Sedna recognized something about him and felt, this is my path, this is what I'm meant to do. And she went with the stranger and followed him, and they left the village and set out on a journey. Soon she discovered herself on a distant island with this stranger. And he pulled back the hood of his cloak, and Sedna saw he was no human. He was Raven, the shaman, the teacher. And Sedna realized then she was on a spiritual journey, a path of initiation. And she felt afraid and she felt uncertain and confused, but she knew that this was her path. And she learned from Raven and began to understand the ways of spirit and how the sacred moves within us and around us and in all that is. But later her father, being concerned for Sedna and distressed that she is not following the correct path, the ways of the village, he sets out to find her. And he eventually locates her on this barren island. And he pleads with her to return to the village. No, Father, I can't go back to the ways of the past. That no longer fits for me, Sedna said to him. But he refused to listen and said, I am the Father, I am your authority, get in the boat. And he forced her into his boat and started paddling back to the village. At this point, Raven returns from being on a journey and sees that Sedna has been taken by her father and is being taken back to the village. And the Raven, knowing the path that Sedna is on, touches his wing to the sea, and a storm rises up, a storm beyond any storm they had ever known before. The winds were violent and the waves were wild, and the father became fearful and afraid. And he calls out to Raven, "Raven, do not harm me. Here, I will give my daughter back to you." And he throws Sedna overboard into the ocean and tries to save himself by paddling away. Sedna, terrified and overwhelmed by the storm and the wind and the waves, clings to the side of the boat, hoping that her father will save her, that he'll rescue her, that he can get her out of this storm. But instead of helping her, the father hits her hands with his paddles to get her away from the boat in his effort to save his own life. And Sedna's fingers break off and drift off into the waves and become the seals and the whales. She now feels even more terrified, flailing in the waves and unable to grab onto the boat. And at that moment, Sedna awakens and remembers, I am on a spiritual path. This is part of Raven's initiation. And she releases her hands from the boat and she dives down below the waves, deeper, deeper into the stillness, into the silence of the waves and of the deep. She finds that stillness within herself. And the seals and the whales call out to her and call her by her name. And she remembers she is not separate from the seals, from the whales. She is part of the sea, part of the oneness of all that is. Sedna remembers that she is a soul self, that she can never die. And with that awakening, she allows her personality self and her body to dissolve. And she transforms and transmutes and becomes the goddess of the sea. Her consciousness expands and she becomes a part of the oneness of all that is, connected to the sacred in all of life. So, dear ones, what is this story telling us about our lives now, about how to navigate this stormy time? The deeper message of this story, the deeper message of Sedna the planet, is telling us that we are in a time of spiritual initiation and transformation. We are being reminded of our true selves. We are being reminded that we are not humans who live and die. We are soul selves who never die. And we come to have this human experience to grow and evolve and learn about love and wisdom. So as we're in this time of transition, it is a time to awaken. It is a time to remember that we are not caught in material reality, that this is not a time to be fixing things and managing things at the third dimensional level. As much as we have the creativity of our technology, we're still caught in an ideology of separation and an illusion of control. When we release that and, like Sedna, let that dissolve and dive into that deeper stillness within us, and that remembrance that we are a part of the oneness of the sea of cosmic consciousness, then we transform. Our consciousness expands. We remember that we are beings of light and love. We are not separate. We are not caught in this third dimensional reality. We are conscious beings that never die. Then, when we expand and connect to our pineal gland and that higher consciousness and wake up and remember our true selves, then we can trust in the energies of transformation that we're in, surrender to them, be carried by them into this radically new form and new way of being. It is like the caterpillar becoming the butterfly. But as the caterpillar is melting down in the chrysalis, I'm sure the caterpillar is thinking, oh my goodness, how do I fix this? How do I get my form back? What is happening? And that's where we are now. And our impulse is to try to manage it, to try to fix it, to put the caterpillar in some protective shell, to inject something into the chrysalis to make the dissolving go away, to get back to how things were, being a caterpillar on a leaf, back to the old paradigms. And the cosmos and Mother Earth are saying, let it go. Let yourself dissolve in the chrysalis. Realize that the forms and structures of your world, of that sense of separation, the nation states, the systems, the economic ways of being, the healthcare, the education, the political ways of leadership are all dissolving. And it is a time of turmoil, and it is a stormy time, and the waves and winds can feel overwhelming. But let it all dissolve. And know that we are being carried through this death rebirth into a metamorphosis to become beings with wings that can fly. To remember that we are beings of expanded consciousness, part of the oneness of all that is. So honor those moments you feel confused and overwhelmed in the wind and waves, like Sedna flailing in the sea. Hold that personality part of yourself with compassion, but don't identify with it. Dive deep into your inner stillness and connection with your soul self, and remember that you will never die, and that this is a part of a transmutation into a whole new way of being. And when you find yourself like Sedna, trying to cling to the boat in the hopes that the Father, the leader, the authorities will somehow rescue you and take you back to the village and you'll be safe again, hold that too with compassion, that part of yourself. And remember, there is no safety in the boat. And the Father can't rescue you. And He too will be caught in the winds and the storm. He is trying to be in control. He is trying to shore up his boat and put storm protection around himself, or somehow transform his boat into a spaceship and get off out of the storm. But we won't get out of this through our minds and that illusion of control, or through our technology. We are in a process of transmutation. We are all in that process. So honor the part of you that is like the Father, trying to be in control, and like the Father who may get reactive and flail at others and rage and try to protect his own territory. That is part of what's happening in our collective now also. But hold it with compassion and remember the message of Raven. You're on a spiritual journey. This is a spiritual initiation. This is a time of transformation. And then you can keep your focus on the larger perspective of what's unfolding and trust that we are being guided and carried by energies beyond ourselves. And then you can also honor where you put your attention. Bring it back to your soul self. Bring it back to that awareness that you never die. Bring it back to that capacity to awaken and expand into that fifth dimensional consciousness of love and unity. As we navigate this time, be aware of where your thoughts go. That North Lunar Node is saying, watch your mind, be aware of your thoughts. Because where you put your thoughts is where you put your energy and your focus and your attention. Bring that back to that inner stillness and alignment with the soul self and remembrance of your oneness with all that is. And then as we move into January 2022, and the North Node moves into Taurus, for the next 18 months, the focus will be on how do we navigate on the earth plane, Taurus. I believe in 2022 we're going to see increasing turbulence at the practical level as our systems continue to deconstruct. And we see more and more clearly that there is no shoring up the old paradigms and going back to the ways of the past. So hold that with compassion. Know that we are in a time in this third dimensional reality, a stormy time, a turbulent time. But the more that we can bring our energy back into that inner stillness, dive deep below the storm-tossed waves, come back into that connection with cosmic consciousness, then we can hold with compassion the intensity of this time in our embodiment here. We can hold with compassion the personality and ego parts of ourselves that may be frightened and overwhelmed. And we can hold with compassion each other as we navigate that transition, knowing that we are all connected and part of the oneness. And then the more we bring our attention and focus back into alignment with our soul selves and that connection with cosmic consciousness and the larger shift that's unfolding, the more gentle this transition will be and the more rapidly we can expand our consciousness and awaken to our true selves. And then from that place of consciousness, we can reimagine and create a whole new world and whole new way of being. It's a whole paradigm shift and dimensional shift. We are moving from the caterpillar state through the chrysalis to becoming the butterflies, to growing our wings and taking flight. Know that that is what this spiritual initiation and time of transmutation is about. Hold that awareness and hold with compassion the storminess of this time. And let us be there with and for each other to move through this time of initiation and transformation into these amazing new ways of being and remembrance of our true selves. that we are beings of light and love who never die and are a part of the creativity of the consciousness of the cosmos. Blessings to all of you. Blessed be.